ahead and introduce Brian. Brian has spent the past 25 years seeking ways to help improve, grow, and succeed. His mission in life is to help others realize their true calling, to discover their passion, and encourage the pursuit of incredible excellence. Brian is the director of Summit Coaching and Training Institute here in Fort Collins. He is a John Maxwell certified speaker, trainer, coach, as well as a certified strategic coach from Robbins Madness. There we go. Training center founded by Tony Robbins. He's written Unleash Your Fear and has become an Amazon best-selling author a few months ago when he co-authored The Abundance Factor with Joe Vitale. There we go, I can speak today. Brian has been involved in Toastmasters for over 6 years and has earned his DTM in 2007 and is VP of PR of Peak Performance. He'll be sharing with us today the power of influence, and his coach will be Chris. Yep. Do you have to go over objectives real quick?
You betcha. Brian gave me the choice. What do you want to put this under? I want to put this under Persuade with Power. So that means, as an executive summary, they list the ability to persuade people, getting them to understand, accept, and act upon your ideas is a valuable skill. Your listeners will be more likely to be persuaded if they perceive you as credible, if you use logic and emotion in your appeal, if you carefully structure your speech, and if you appeal to their interests. Avoid using notes because they may cause listeners to doubt your sincerity, knowledge, or conviction. So the objectives: persuade listeners to adopt your viewpoint or ideas, or to take some action. Appeal to the audience's interests. Use logic and emotion to support your position. Avoid using notes. We are going to do a 15 to 20 minutes. So I will do 15 minutes green, 18 minutes yellow, 20 minutes red.
Perfect. Let's welcome Brian up.
Now, before I really get started, I have been recovering from a cold. I am going to use notes because I could talk for hours on this subject, but I only have a short amount of time and I want to stay on point. The other thing I want to ask you is to remember that this is an interactive presentation. So there's going to be times when I'm going to be asking you questions. I may ask you to raise your hand. I do this because it has been proven that when you are involved in the presentation, you actually learn better. Now, don't feel like you have to copy everything down that I have up here on the screen because I am going to be going pretty fast. We're going to be skimming the topic. So if you want, I will be happy to share my slide with you. So let's go ahead and dive in. So when we stop to think about it, what is influence? We all are speaking, for the most part, the English language. However, when we use words, not everybody is on the same page. Not everybody has the dictionary definition of the word that they operate from. So let me ask you, what does influence mean to you? This is that interactive part of the presentation where you...
Impact?
Impact, okay. What else?
Getting you to change your thought or your patterns.
Okay, change. What else? Let's do
Cooperation.
What?
Cooperation.
Cooperation, great. So actually, let's look at the dictionary definitions. This is actually for the noun version. The capacity or power of persons or things to be a compelling force on or produce effects on actions, behaviors, opinions, etc. of others. Now, if we were to look at it as a verb, it's to move or impel a person or thing to some sort of action. When we look at the synonyms of the word, there's quite a bit. Some are positive, impress, lead, but there's also some negative connotations in there too. A lot of people have a negative connotation around the word sell, direct, control. So, and that's something we need to really remember is, one, we are always being influenced and we are always influencing. And we can have a positive influence or a negative influence. So regardless, let's stop and take a look at why this is such an important factor. But before we do that, let's cover a bit of my background. As it was shared, I'm a certified coach with the Robbins Madonnas organization. I'm also a John Maxwell team member. And for those of you who are not familiar with John, he has written over 100 books, including 7 New York Times best-selling books, including the best-selling book on leadership ever, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And actually, these are actually, the laws are in order. Excuse me. The second law in the book is leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. When you stop to think about it, as we cover here in just a minute, you've had quality leaders and you've had some really sucky leaders, haven't you? And when you've had a poor leader, what level of influence have they had over you? High level or a low level?
Sometimes it's a high level. I'll do anything besides what he wants. I-
That's that. Okay, so that's a
Okay,
high
that's not-
negative level.
High negative level.
Right. Okay. So let's just actually look at who you are influencing. Now, we all have probably heard of our sphere of influence. This is who and what we have control over. Now, the first and foremost person that we have influence and leadership over is ourselves. And we must always work first, hardest, and longest on mastering ourselves before we can positively influence anyone else. Now, the next one that a lot of people think about is positional leadership. Now, this one that comes to mind for this was when I got off the bus at basic training, and there was this drill instructor with his nice big Smokey the Bear hat, with his brim banging off my forehead, telling me what I should be doing. Right here in my face. Definitely positional leadership. And actually, as we went on, it got to be somewhat of a joke as watching that drill instructor get in the face of the new guys coming off the bus. He lost some of that influence that he had over us. Now, the next one is actually one that we sometimes work on, but sometimes not. See, peer leadership, the only leverage we have here is through the relationship that we have. They follow us because they want to. I experienced this as a Boy Scout leader. When you are a volunteer leader, you really have to step up your influence game, especially when you're trying to lead junior high and high school age boys. So the question I have for you is, are you building these relationships with your peers? Because it's only through that relationship that you are going to increase or decrease your level of influence. So if you were to stop and think about your peers in your job and ask yourself the question, if you were promoted to be their boss, would they follow you? Now, the last one we're going to talk about is upward leadership. Now, here you have absolutely no leverage, with a few minor exceptions. But here you're trying to influence the influencers. And as we're going to go through, you're going to see some of the things that make a significant difference with these people. But one of the things I really want you to grasp is that wherever you are, whatever room you're in, you are somewhere on this circle. Even when you're alone by yourself, you're still trying to manage yourself. Who you are matters when you're trying to influence people. First and foremost, your character. Your beliefs, your values have a huge impact on your ability to influence others, especially over the long term. Now, most of the time we give people a little bit of leeway in the beginning. Depending on who they are and their position, they will let us know very quickly on how they are going to influence us and whether or not we will allow that influence to impact us. The next thing is be authentic. This is actually kind of one of the big buzzwords that has come out lately, but it is very, very true. Because people want to know that you are real. And the other thing is are you relatable? Can you again, make a connection with them. The other thing is, are you knowledgeable? Do you have something they want? Next is experience. Have you walked your talk? And going along with that is your past successes. So your track record is important. People don't want to follow somebody who's never been there, or at least been successful doing it. And most importantly is your capacity, or your capability. Are you capable of getting them where they want to go? Can you deliver on your promises? So what does it take to influence others? And as I go through these, I want you to think about the various leaders you've had in the past. And if you've been a leader yourself, I want you to think about how you have led others. So, first and foremost, you must create a connection with them. And the quality and strength of that connection has a dramatic impact on that. You see, people who are being influenced and following are really asking three primary questions. The first is, do you care about me? Do I matter to you? To the organization? Have you ever had an organization or a boss who did not care about you? And on the flip side, have you actually stopped to think about someone who you feel is a big influence in your life? Do you feel that they care about you? That you are important to them? Next is, can you help me? Now see, everyone comes to everything with their own agenda. We go to our jobs because there's a need within us. We need to be able to pay our bills. If we're not able to do that, then why are we even there in the first place? So you have to be able to answer their question, or you need to be able to solve their problem. And here is the biggest key of all. Can I trust you? It's incredibly important in today's society. In fact, probably one of the New York Times best-selling books by Stephen Covey is The Speed of Trust. Without trust, how do you come across? Manipulative? Abusive? Is that the way you want to come across? The other thing is the energy you bring to the room. Now, hopefully you're bringing a positive energy to the room, because I'm sure you've experienced the person that when they come into the room, everybody else wants to leave. Why is that? It's because the energy that they bring into the room is toxic, and they don't want to be around it. No one wants to be around that person. So I ask you, who do you want to work with, buy from, or spend time with? Do you want to spend time with somebody like that? Or do you want to spend time with somebody that energizes you, that you can technically feed off of, that they're intoxicated almost just being around them? Me personally, I want to be with the first guy. Do you want to be with the first guy or the second guy?
The second.
The second guy. Come on now. This means yes. This means no.
Yes.
I know it's a little early, but all right. Next is emotion. What level of emotion? And as I say, that passion. Because let me tell you, have you ever been around somebody that you don't even have a clue what they were talking about or what they wanted to go do, but because of their energy and excitement and their passion about it, you went, okay, I'm in. I don't know what the heck I'm getting myself into, but I'm in. That's the type of person that everyone wants to be around. You can be that person. Okay, so here are 5 ways to be more effective at increasing your level of influence. Number 1, and first and foremost, is be intentional. 80 to 90% of our lives is spent on autopilot. But if you stop and make a plan and decide who and how you are going to influence, you're automatically going to step up your game at a significant level. Next is see the best in them. See their potential, not their current behavior. And I'm going to go back to kids on this, because you wouldn't put your kid up for adoption if they brought home a family report card, would you? But how many times does that happen in the business world? Next is grow yourself. Actually, the first law in the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership is the law of the limb, which basically says you cannot give what you do not have. Which is actually what you're doing here today, is you are growing and expanding yourself. You need to set the example, because by applying what you learn here today, you can then share and expand your influence with others. Next is ask, don't tell. If you are being told to do something versus being asked to do something. Now that's a very simple thing, but you take it a step farther and you say, what do you want to work on? What is something that you would enjoy doing? You are tapping into their intrinsic motivation versus having to use external motivation to get them to do the things you want to do. Get them involved in the process of coming up with what's going to happen, as well as getting their buy-in. Get their agreement along the way. When you do that, they become a part of the solution. And when that happens, don't you want to be more, aren't you? You take ownership of it. And therefore you become invested in creating a positive outcome. Now, when it comes to Napoleon Hill saying something like this, the ability to influence people without irritating them is the most profitable skill you can learn. Now, everybody familiar with Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich? When the grandfather of modern personal development says something like that, don't you think it would be very wise for us to make it a priority to master this skill? And I can't believe we are where we are right now. But if you were, stop to think about it, we've really just scratched the surface of this. In fact, John has written Becoming a Person of Influence, and we've really only covered about 3 to 4 pages in the book. And so I'm going to ask you the question to raise your hand if you feel like studying this material at a deeper level would add value and be important to you in your life. Come on. This is, if you agree, raise your hand, please. Okay. Thank you. You see, I always get 90+% agreement when I ask that question. And those that don't are lying to themselves because they really don't. But see, most people don't follow through. But you're not most people. You're Toastmasters. You chose to take time out of your day to be here right now. And I commend you for taking time to learn and grow. So I'm going to challenge you with one more question. What are you going to do about it? When influence is so important and valuable in our lives, we need to take action. We need to set an intention on what you're going to do. So, if you have a piece of paper and a pen, I would encourage you to take a moment and write down. I've shared a number of things with you. What was maybe one thing that you can walk away with right here, right now, that you can use and apply? And if you really don't know what to do, you can check out my website, incredible-influence.com. One of the things I want you to always remember is the fact that you are always having an influence. You may not be aware of it. You may be running on autopilot. But you should choose what you want to be. and not just let it happen.
Now, let's take a moment, we'll get some evaluations passed out, and while we're doing that, we'll have Chris come up to do the evaluation session on Brian.
Here we are. There we go. Thank you, Sarah. I'm not sure if I chose the correct project for you, but I like the way it worked in many aspects. This could just as easily have been, Brian, an informative speech, because it was very, very informative. Here are ways to look at information about this topic. Here's information about the topic. Here are ways that you can get more information about the topic. So it was very, very informative. I know we're passing out on things still, so I want to hold off a little bit, but I'm just going to give my evaluation, and then I'm going to give you guys like a minute or two to make your notes, and we're going to bring it into the whole thing. I may as well get the things that I really liked first, so at least they're out there and nobody else can steal them. That's the way it always happens. Just reminding us that we can be, are influencers in the world around us is always an important thing. And I think that's where the persuasion comes in. So often in our society and in our culture, I don't feel like people really believe that. They don't believe that they have any influence, and that is a message that we need to put out there. We are influencers. Everyone can be an influencer, and what kind of influence are you having? The other thing, anytime we have that lovely quote about influencing people without irritating, I remember that from reading the book the first time long ago, and that always makes me happy, bringing it back to the point where we say, yeah, you have to do this, but you don't have to bug people about it. Your style is always very strong. For me, you have good speaking skills, very strong skills, and I know you used your notes because you had a lot of points, but by golly, you're locked. You're locked and loaded here, babe. And in order for you to influence us even more, I want you out here. You are such an exceptional speaker. You will have more power when you relax the material and connect further. That's my belief. Now, people have been writing. I'm going to give folks, I'm just going to time it on my lovely Fitbit. And we'll see if we can get a minute here there, just to let you write. She's going to hang out. All right. I'm going to open the floor up. Excuse me, I apologize. My grammar has really slipped lately. I am going to open the floor for comments from the audience. If you have something right off the bat, let's start with, we're going to go, this is a good thing, then we'll move on to here's where I see improvement, and then I'd like to come back to my favorite thing. So, good things. Linda.
It was really obvious, even from the outset, that you were giving us a little snippet. And I think you did that in a way that left me thinking about what else there might be and curious. I think in a short speech like this about a pretty complex topic, that's really beneficial to leave people saying, I wonder how much more there was to that, and I'm really interested in learning something. So I think that was
That's
really
great.
positive.
That's actually one of the key objectives that I'm trying to come up with in this presentation.
Good. Anybody else?
I found that you're very engaging at the beginning, trying to make that connection with the audience, trying to warm them up.
I think the contents are very rich. There are so many good points that make people think. And also you showed a few books. I almost say after the meeting I'm going to talk to you or take a picture. So you really attract my attention and make me interested.
Okay. Awesome. Let's move on because I don't want to take too long. One or two things where I wish you had done it a little differently or consider a different idea. Linda, and then Sarah.
Right in the beginning, it felt like your cadence and the pace of your speech was a little unnatural for you. It felt a little bit forced, a little bit too formal for the material you're trying to present. And I think as you kind of got into your topic, it felt more natural, more conversational. I think if you could start out, you started being really conversational, and then you went into your material, and there was a little switch there, and it became kind of intellectual, and, I'm giving you my material now. And I think if you could have maintained that more conversational demeanor, that would have strengthened your whole presentation. It would have felt like we were more having a conversation rather than you were lecturing to us.
Gotcha. Sarah?
I was just going to echo what Chris said, especially with this room set up the way it is, using the whole aisle would have been great because you can come up and really engage with us.
Could I put that as physical engagement? Okay. Who knows? Or please contact. Yes,
Yeah, with kids in the room, I guess if you present it, probably you can customize it. See, if you have kids, as a parent, you will naturally be an influencer to your kids. Then that's just draw people's attention, get more interested, something like that.
That's actually one of the examples of positional leadership that I took out. Basically, I can run this presentation anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, and you got basically half of the presentation. So I was trying to cram a lot of material in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I was a little surprised, because she hadn't even turned on the first light yet. So.
I was just about to do that when you were saying that. It's
Yeah.
like second, go. James.
You actually mentioned the point I was going to say. I'm not familiar with this guy and all those books. So I went over. What I would have loved to hear and see was something more concise instead of trying to cover the 1 hour presentation in 15 minutes. Would have just taken 1 or 2 points and gone a little deeper, and then say, if you want more, because you have that slide at the end, here's where you can get it. Just keep 1 or 2 examples. It allows you to do the pacing and all the other things.
Cool beans. Rachel?
I think that would be great if you made a shortened version like James said, but pack some of these 15 minutes in some kind of downloadable or something that you can read people, and then you can ultimately lead them to their funnel growth.
Cool beans. All right, oh, Reed?
This is a general thing that I think any speaker has a problem with, is trying to help the audience feel that you're authoritative on this topic. And how do you present that in a way that it just doesn't come across cold and canned? And for me, one of the things in your introduction, the slide that has, that you're a Tony Robbins coach and a Maxwell coach. To me, I almost would like you to consider changing that up so that you can connect with people, saying, at one point in my life, I was really struggling with where I was at. And then I met this person, and just show a picture of you and Tony Robbins. And then tell us what happened to you and what changed your life. And that's when I decided to become one of his coaches. And then I met another person, Maxwell. And then, from that perspective, it doesn't come across as just, yeah, I'm a coach for these guys. I have certifications and I've read these books and that's part of my thing. It is more of how you took what they had and how it changed your life so that now you're an authoritative person. It's just not you're regurgitating what you have from these guys. In that case, it's also, for me, that's where your creativity needs to come out. And personally, the introduction of this dictionary version of influence, to me, doesn't connect with me. I'm just going, okay, that's what's in the dictionary. But really, what I think would help strengthen that is turn the question to the audience and say, who was an influence on your life? And what made them so influential? Then you could draw from your audience, what are those qualities? What are those things? Rather than thinking in terms of what's influential mean to you. That way it establishes in their mind someone already that established that influence.
Another question that's drawn from a longer presentation.
Right.
Good.
And I think there's just another deal on statistics there too that sort of tie that in. Is I've heard the statistic that even the most introverted person will influence 10,000 people in their lifetime.
Wow.
And then you have people like John Maxwell who are influencing millions of people. So I think that, at least that draws the introverts out of the crowd and lets them know that this topic is important.
Right. I wanted to go on further. Some really good points. We have a red light. I'm going to have you go ahead and make sure that your little notes get over there. Brian, what I heard, yes, we want some more anecdotes from you. We want you to use your space, engage with us more. We love snippets. They leave us wanting more. You have rich content, but we're a little forced at times switching from informational to conversational. This was exactly the kind of thing I think peak performance is about. Taking a presentation that you're doing in the community and finding input from us so that it can be even better when you step outside. Madam Toastmaster.